It's Beer O'Clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we're going to be reviewing two golden beers from two different brands from one company. So Marston's own Witchwood Brewery and they own Banks Brewery. I recently, as of 10 minutes ago, reviewed Witchwood Brewery's Firecatcher Golden Beer, 3.5% ABV for £1. Picked it up in Morrison's, and I promised to do a little bit of a tie-in video where I talk a little bit about the Firecatcher and this Banks Golden Beer, because this is coming in at 3.8% ABV in a 500ml bottle, and it was again £1 to buy. So without further ado, there's the bottle cap. So the beers have been brewed in two different facilities. Witchwood Brewery's down in Oxford, and these guys, Banks Brewery, are up in Burton-on-Trent. Nice bit of smoke on the bottle opening. Beer in the glass. So what I'm looking to do is to see if there's any kind of way that these two breweries, under the one ownership of a brand, how much can they differentiate from one another? How much can one golden beer be different from another golden beer from a different brand, brewed probably 200 miles away, but owned by the same company? We got a 1 to 2 finger whitehead, good levels of carbonation. This one looks a little bit more deeper in colour. I'm just going to run and get the other beer. I've left it in the living room. And I am back. This is the Witchwood Firecatcher. And if you look at the beers, straight away you can see that the golden beer by Banks is slightly deeper. A deeper golden colour than the lighter Witchwood Brewery beer. But then again, the Witchwood Brewery beer is lower in ABV by 0.3%. This looks good. It looks good. 1 finger whitehead, as we said, golden coloured beer, good levels of carbonation. Let's get the aroma. Really lemony. Citrusy, lemony, light grain, malty, wafer-like malts coming through. It smells pretty decent, and for £1, it almost smells unbelievable for that £1 to purchase. Of course, in 2022. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. That's just lovely. That is just lovely. Light, crisp, refreshing, golden. Golden's not a taste, but it's a style of beer, and it's certainly tasting like a golden beer. I talked on the thumbnail of this being a beer from a bygone era. I mean, Banks used to be massive when I was a kid. There were Banks pubs everywhere. And you'd always see the Banks Brewery pubs dotted around the UK. They've since been kind of rebranded as Marston's. What was the Bank? It was Banks Bitter. That was the one. Banks. So we had a place called the Old College Inn back in the day. It was a Banks pub, and they always had Banks Bitter on, and it was good. It was a pretty decent pint for what you got. And then Pedigree was always the stronger of the two beers that I ended up gravitating to as I got older. I started to drink more of the Pedigree than the Banks Bitter, and I suppose a lot of people did. Hence the kind of big rebrand to Marston's. or what I should have said was changing a lot of the Banks pubs into Marston's pubs. That's what I kind of meant by that. This is all day session stuff. This is at 3.8% ABV. It is incredibly drinkable, incredibly refreshing. The carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. It is very, very similar. It is very similar to the Wychwood beer. I really like that Firecatcher for the 3.5% ABV. I would say the Firecatcher is a little bit more refreshing. It's got a little bit more of a light, airy, refreshing feel about it. This is more, I'd say this is more an ale. It's a little bit more full-bodied. It's a little bit more traditional. It's got a little bit more spring of carbonation. The carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. This is much more kind of what I was expecting. The Firecatcher was a bit of a bolt out of the blue. I was kind of like really surprised by that and loving it. Absolutely loving it. Whereas this is what I was expecting. I'm still really, really enjoying it. I think it's terrific value for £1 in this day and age. To still be able to pick up supermarket beer for £1 is, I mean, I started the whole channel off buying pound bottles of beer back in 2010, 12 years ago, over 12 years ago. Short on money, started the channel, bought £1 beer every week, and that's how I was doing a kind of a beer a week type of thing when I first started, and then I kind of upped my game to 2 beers a day. But that was the kind of the beginnings of the channel. The start of the channel was these pound beers, and it's remarkable, really, that 12 years later you're still able to buy a beer for £1 in a supermarket. Remarkable, it really is, and not just any old rubbish. This is very good for that £1 that you're paying. What do Banks say about this beer? Pouring a shimmering pale gold, Banks golden beer is clean, crisp and quenching, light bitter with delicate clementine oranges and luscious lemon citrus notes, delivering a Moorish ale for every occasion. Produced by Carlsberg Marston Brewing Company, so they're not even just Marston's anymore. It's Carlsberg Marston Breweries. My goodness me. Wow. I mean, I don't even know. Did Carlsberg own a majority stake now in Marston's? They were Marston's Brewery as well. They were never called Marston's Brewing Company. Okay, whatever they want to call themselves these days, they can go ahead and call themselves. I think, now, does this say Marston's Brewing Company? Yeah, it does. It says Carlsberg Marston's Brewing. I'm wondering whether Carlsberg have gone into Marston's and shook the tree a bit. Give everybody a little bit of a shake, because the beers weren't great. I mean, I was drinking Wychwood beers a few years ago, and I haven't bought a Wychwood Brewery beer until I bought Dry Neck a couple of weeks ago, and this, for years. I just steered clear of it. Didn't buy it because I wasn't a fan. And I wasn't really, some of the Banks bottled beers, they weren't great. But Carlsberg have really kind of gone in, I think, and shaken the tree and gone, look, what is going on here? This beer needs to be tasting like A, B, C, and getting all the way to Z. And this is how it should be tasting. I think they've really gone to town here with Marston's, which I think is a really good thing, because this is a decent beer for £1. I'm going to rate it. Banks, Carlsberg, Marston's Brewing Company's golden beer. I like it enough. It looks good. It smells good. It tastes good. For that value for money, for that £1, it's unbelievable. It's a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! Cheers.